Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Write Your Path podcast. I am your host, Lolly Spindler, a writer, editor, book doula, and writing coach. And on this episode, I want to talk about the power of presence. So, presence and being present is so important to me that when I was originally looking for a name for this podcast, one of the ideas I actually had was entrepreneurship, spirituality, and cow shit. And the reason why I wanted to include the term cow shit is because for me, this is going to sound really weird, but it's such like a beautiful metaphor for the act of being present. Let me explain. I went to India back in February, and you really, if you've ever been to India, you know this. If you haven't, like, you really have to be present walking the streets of India. Because if you're not, if you're on your phone, if you're not looking where you're going, you will either step in cow shit or you will get run over by a scooter. So it was really interesting to me because, right, like, India is so tied with Hinduism, and Hinduism, a big part of it is being aware of the separation of self from the divine, and how do we reconcile that and come back to being one. How do we do that? Oh, we start doing that with meditation. We have to be aware, we have to be present, right? Like, so much of the teachings of Hinduism have to deal with presence. And so I thought it was such a beautiful metaphor to then be in India and realize, oh my God, you have to be so present just walking here, or else you're going to step in cow shit. And they say it's a blessing. So if you do end up stepping in cow shit, which a few of the people with us did, it is also considered like a bendición, like a little blessing if you do. But I loved it because not only did all the cow shit on the street and all the cows themselves force you to be super present while you're walking around, like, right? I have to be looking where I'm going. I have to really take in the moment, who's around me, the environment I'm in. But it's also really cool because nobody is on their phone. Like, literally, I'm sure some people are, but like, if you think about Western society, and if you're walking down the street of like a major Western city, everyone's on their fucking phone, right? Like, you rarely make random eye contact with people anymore. And so it was really beautiful that you literally could not be on your phone while walking down the street in India, or else you would get run over or step in cow shit. So I really loved that lesson of presence while I was there, which is why cow shit is now a beautiful metaphor in my eyes. And another reason why I really want to talk about presence today is because there's kind of a rule I live my life by, or at least I teach my students, and the initials are DPA. Depression comes from living in the past. Peace comes from living in the present. Anxiety comes from living in the future. And so when we do see people who are very depressed, they're normally in this state of being in the past, right? They're simmering over something that happened. They can't move forward. They're very much stuck in the past. And then if you look at anxious people, it's normally because, oh my God, I have so many things to do, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to get there in time. Their anxiety is coming from living in the future. So I really believe that if we are able to root in the present, we can connect with peace a lot more easily. So that's just a little initialism I like to use, DPA. This is a completely random aside, but the difference between an initialism and an acronym is an initialism, you say all the letters. So DPA would be initialism. An acronym would be something like NASA because it makes a little word. Anyways, complete aside, but seeing as I'm a writer, editor, and a crazy grammarian, thought I would throw that in there. So another thing I want to mention about presence is when you slow down to truly become present, you start to realize these things that we've invented in our mind that we think will signal that we've reached peak existence or the pinnacle of our lives. We start to realize that we can have that in every single waking moment. The pinnacle of life isn't something that's waiting for us, right? It's realizing it's happening in every single moment of our lives. So a couple of nights ago, this became really real for me because I was walking home from a sauna. And so I was already in like a really good space, right? I just sweat out all the toxins. I was walking home and it was the sun was just setting, and I have to walk through 2 parks from the sauna to my house, which is a beautiful, amazing walk. And I was just like looking up at the sky. There were pink cotton candy clouds. It was just so beautiful. And I was like, wow, like this is peak existence. Just being so aware in this moment and realizing the beauty that I already have in my life, just existing all around me. This is the pinnacle, right? And it's not something that I have to keep waiting for, or searching for, or striving for, right? No, I can have it right now in this moment, just looking around me and seeing how beautiful things already are. And there's actually a Japanese term I want to share. It's called komorebi. I'm sure I'm butchering that. I apologize. And I actually learned this term from the movie Perfect Days. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. I think it came out in 2023. So komorebi means, it's the Japanese term for light that filters through the trees. So if you're looking at the shadow cast by a tree and you see the leaves kind of moving in its shadow, that's komorebi. And the beautiful thing about komorebi is within the meaning of that term is also the sensation that you only get to see that once. The sun will never hit that tree and move those leaves in the same way that it just did, that you just witnessed. So it's this beautiful term that not only describes a beautiful, somewhat simple natural phenomenon, but it also encapsulates the feeling of, wow, I just saw something that will never exist again. So I thought of that term when I was walking home because I was like, wow, like the sun will never set this way. The sky will never be pink in this way. The clouds will never be touched the same way by the sunlight, right? So it's like keeping komorebi top of mind for me is now something I try to practice. And if you haven't seen Perfect Days, I highly recommend it. It's about a man who is a public toilet cleaner in like the parks in Japan. And every day for him is perfect because he lives with this sense of komorebi. He lives with this sense that every day is precious, every day is perfect, and he imbues purpose into everything he does, from his ritual of getting up in the morning to making sure all of the things he needs to do his job are stocked and ready. He takes so much pride in what he does. He comes home and listens to cassettes. He goes to the same diner. Sometimes he frequents a little bar with the same bartender, right? So he's very intentional, but not just that. He realizes and really focuses on the beauty of every interaction he has throughout his day. So it's a really beautiful picture. I hope you get the chance to see it. And it really is like, if this man who is a public toilet cleaner can be living the pinnacle of life and experiencing peak existence every day, then why can't you? It's basically that's what I took away from it, right? If this man who literally cleans other people's shit can have this experience, so can you. So I really love that movie. I literally, when that term comes up at the very end, they put it on the screen. And I just started crying because I was like, wow, this was so touching and beautiful. So anyways, please see that movie if you haven't. And another thing, when you are able to start being present and seeing the beauty in every moment and kind of embodying this term, komorebi, that's when you actually start to attract the things that you thought you needed to have that experience. All right, so let me explain. Let's say you think, I'm just going to use myself for an example. Oh my God, I have to publish a book, and like I have to be well known as a writer, and I have to like have a bestseller or like have a huge following or like blah, 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 blah in order to reach peak existence, or like what I think is the pinnacle of my life, right? Once I start realizing that my peak existence and the pinnacle of my life, I'm experiencing it in every moment, I'm already putting that energy out into the universe. And I really believe that what we put out comes back to us. So if I'm already practicing Komorebi and I'm realizing there's so much beauty around me and I'm so grateful for what I have already, the universe is going to see that and it's going to match that energy. And so then with a lot less effort, with a lot less striving, with a lot less fighting for something, these things that I've put out as things I would like to have and like to experience in my life are going to start flowing to me. They're going to start coming to me with so much more ease and fluidity than if I were to be in this stuck energy of being like, oh, I have to do this and this in order to get this, right? Like that energy is very estancada. It's very sticky. It's not fluid, right? I'm saying I don't have instead of I have. So the universe is not going to give me what I want because I'm telling it I don't have it. So it's like, all right, you're going to keep not having it. So it's kind of interesting that once we do start putting that energy out into the universe just puts a mirror right up in front of us and starts giving it back. So something to think about if you do want to start to implement this practice of presence. So you're probably thinking, okay, so if I want to embody Komorebi, if I want to start being more present, realizing the beauty all around me, how do I get into that headspace? So I have 2 recommendations for you. The first one is a gratitude practice. This is actually, so in the Right to Heal, which is my group coaching program for those who want to start writing, connect with a creative channel, kind of overcome those limiting beliefs of I can't be a writer, get rid of that self-doubt and really feel empowered to start writing and to put their writing into practice every single day. Within that 5-week program, I implement a different mindfulness technique every week. So the first week, what we start with is a gratitude practice. And the reason I think this is so important is because back in the pandemic in 2020, obviously, I feel like there was like a mutual depression happening. And I was questioning a lot of things. And I was like, what's the deal with happiness? Like, why does this seem so illusory? Why do so many people feel it's something they're always reaching for that they have to obtain and that they can't just have? Like, right, it has to be earned. Like, why can't we just have that? And I was really intrigued by this concept and like, well, what does it mean to be happy? How do we define it broadly when it's, a very subjective state? So I had a lot of time on my hands, as a lot of us did, since we weren't, allowed to go out into the world. So I was looking for like a course on happiness, and I found one by a Yale professor called Laurie Santos. And she really goes into all the different facets of happiness. I highly recommend it. It's online and it's free. I will actually put a link to it in the episode notes. But one of the first thing that she says is, if you want to start improving your well-being immediately, you need to start a gratitude practice, because literally the benefits are immediate and not just short-term, but long-term. So a gratitude practice, the other beautiful thing about it is it's so simple and it's not a lot of heavy lifting. It's no heavy lifting. It's very easy. So what she recommends, and now what I recommend to my students, is that you wake up every morning and you have a little journal by your bed, a gratitude journal, and you basically take it out and you write down 3 things, people, places, whatever, that you are grateful for every morning. That's it. Very simple. Obviously, you don't have to do it immediately every morning if you already have a morning ritual, and you can include it, maybe when you sit down to have your coffee. Like, it doesn't have to be strict. Like, we don't like rules, right? Make it work for you. The important thing is you just want to do it. But what this does is it starts forcing us to be present and realizing that we already have so much to be grateful for, and kind of getting in that mental space of komorebi, of, wow, like, I will never get to have a day like this again. I will never get to be particularly grateful for these 3 things, even though you're obviously going to keep expanding your gratitude practice. But it's just a beautiful way to start your day in presence and gratitude. And it really does uplift you. And it completely changes the way you start to see things throughout your day. So after a while, this practice for me became almost like breathing, in the sense that it was automatic. After I had my little gratitude journal by my bed, and I always recommend you have different journals for different purposes and intentions. I think of journals as little prayers. And so I like to be very intentional about what I'm using each journal for. So for this one, and make it very intentional, this is for gratitude, and that's what this will hold. It's like a prayer that it's holding for you. And so after I'd been doing this, I think it was, they say it takes 21 days to build a habit. So after doing this for 21 days, it started to just be something I noticed throughout my day. And it wasn't even something I needed to sit down and write down anymore. It was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this desk that my partner built for me. I'm so grateful for my beautiful plants and how they're growing. I'm so beautiful for how comfortable and smooth the rug is under my feet, right? Like, just little things without even being super like focusing on it. They would just be like, oh, like it was like gratitude, like seeping out of the objects or the people or the things around me and just coming to touch me. And I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for that. So that's what I recommend. Start a gratitude journal. Keep doing it for at least 21 days, and then just see how you start shifting your mindset and seeing if you can be more in the present moment, and check in with yourself throughout the day and just be like, wow, in this moment, I am grateful for this, even if it's one thing, right? And then eventually maybe you can do 5 things, whatever, but just start slow, right? Be intentional. And then eventually I just want you to notice if it becomes almost like an ingrained habit, an ingrained part of you, just noticing throughout your day. So that's the first tool I recommend. The second tool I recommend is to start writing, specifically journaling, because journaling is very tied with self-reflection. And that is what is super helpful for presence. So when we write, the physical act of writing, I also recommend to my students, if you can, to physically write in a journal. Obviously, if you're in a pinch and all you have is your phone, you can use your notes app or your laptop. But I really think it's more beneficial if we're physically writing. It just makes more neural connections with the brain, with the hands. Like, it's just way more beneficial in general. But writing is, for me, the ultimate practice of presence, because we don't write at the same pace as we think. Therefore, when we're writing, we're forced to slow down and be with our day, with an experience we just had, with a moment we want to record, in a way that gives us more clarity. It provides a new perspective, a unique angle, or even like a bird's eye view, like an observer's view of that thing or that moment that we just experienced. So for me, writing, especially journaling, because it's more, like I said, it's autoreflexión, it's self-reflection. Sorry, sometimes Spanish words come to my brain first before English words. It really forces us to look at something that maybe we would have just let it be, or like, oh, that sucked, or that was so beautiful, I want to remember it, but we don't write it down. It really forces us to be with that moment and can provide a lot more clarity, and forces us to be really present in, wow, like right now I'm sitting in this park. It is gorgeous. This is how the light is hitting. This is so just recording in that moment can be so beautiful and so beneficial. And even if it's a moment that is just past and we look back and start reflecting, it's kind of working a muscle so that in the future, when we're in a similar situation, whether it is observing beauty or whether it's like a difficult conversation, it provides a little more perspective and presence because we've already worked that muscle of reflecting on that moment. So I definitely recommend these two tools, starting a gratitude practice and journaling or writing as ways that we can really become more present in our day-to-day lives. And I would like to invite you as well, if you are interested in doing a journaling practice in community, the Right to Heal is my 5-week group coaching program. We will be kicking off our next group in early 2026, most likely end of January. And in this program, we do focus on a gratitude practice, like I said earlier, within the first week. And we also are really going deep into self-reflection and this practice of presence throughout the 5-week journey. We go through the past, the present, and the future. So it kind of like they're building blocks to build the lives that we want to intentionally live going forward, which really, 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 you need a lot of presence with intention. And I think intention is really makes all the difference when it comes to how we live our lives. So if you're interested, please get in touch. I'll also put the link to that program in the episode notes. But I just really wanted, this was just like on my heart this week. And it's actually really funny. Like I really believe in synchronicities and the universe, like I said earlier, reflecting back what we're putting out there. So it was interesting. I wanted to record this episode a couple of days ago and like shit got crazy in my life. And I was like, go with the flow, Wally, like this will get done. And then yesterday, I was reading this amazing book. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's about indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. I highly recommend it. But I was sitting waiting for an appointment. I was sitting waiting to get my permanent residency. I'm now officially a permanent resident of Mexico. So excited. But I was sitting there and I read this passage and I was like, that is why I haven't recorded this episode yet, because I had to read this passage before I recorded this episode. So I just wanted to leave you with this beautiful passage where I was I was in the immigration center, like waiting for them to call me, and I'm just like crying because because this passage was so beautiful. And it's talking about strawberries as gifts from the earth that give themselves freely to us. We're not talking about, the huge strawberries that people grow, like Big Ag. We're talking about like the wild strawberries that are literally just given to us from the earth. And Robin says, strawberries first shaped my view of a world full of gifts simply scattered at your feet. A gift comes to you through no action of your own, free, having moved toward you without your beckoning. It is not a reward. You cannot earn it or call it to you or even deserve it. And yet it appears. Your only role is to be open-eyed and present. So I will leave that with you to close this Power of Presence episode, because when you start being present in your life, there are millions of beautiful gifts the universe is just waiting to give you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Ciao.